Helen, you mentioned about the Primary Care Network package, and I was just wondering if you've got some more details, please.
So I've got this leaflet, which sets it all out. But the idea behind it really was that in the past we've run OD programs for STPs, for example, on behalf of Health Education England. So a lot of it is about us meeting with you, understanding what it is that what stage you're at in your development, and then creating an offer to you, basically. So it could be facilitating workshops, it could be doing a digital maturity assessment of where you're at as a group, it could be scoping out particular digital medtech innovations that you would wish to consider, it could be leadership support, strategic support, it could be anything really, and I think that's probably the best way to go about it, rather than sort of say this is what we're offering. But in the past we've done, as I say, a lot of kind of leadership training, OD, strategic support, so those kind of things. But I'll push around the leaflets later so you can have a look.
Thank you, Helen. Did anyone have any follow-up questions to that? If not, I think we've got a really good question for you, Alison, which is, are the digital nurses networks working with the universities to embed digital within the training of our future nurses?
Yes, is the answer to that. One of our other network managers that works with patient participation, patient groups, and works with the Empower the Person team for the patient, is working with the universities and bringing them all together, and that includes working with Jenny and the Digital Nurse Network to get that workspace in with them. So there's a whole programme coming for universities for primary care digital transformation.
And then I think there's probably another one for you here, Alison, which is about putting appointments online. So the question is, it's easy to say to put them online, but patients will quite often book the wrong appointment, end up in the wrong place. That creates a lot of work for practices in terms of admin and wasted time. So what are your practices that you're working with doing to address that?
I absolutely hear you. It's all in the planning and your change processes of when you're setting these clinics up and having them discussions with the right people. I think that it would be valuable for you to get in touch with Helen to discuss it, because these issues have been addressed and it is working. But a lot of it is about having the conversations and communicating to your patients, and you will always have an element of people booking the wrong appointments. Sometimes we have to accept some of those risks, but it should be within your projects and moving forward of planning to accept them risks or not to accept them risks. But if the communication plan's right and it's managed effectively, it can work within your practice. So happy to give you contact details, anybody that's interested for Helen that could have a more one-to-one conversation about that actual project being put in place.
Okay. So I think we've got a bit of a challenge here about us asking using abbreviations. So Helen, I think this one was you. So can you explain what OD is?
So OD, organisational development, so it's just when you go in and support that kind of cultural shift that's required when you're trying to change something. Yeah, so it could be, for example, when the practices are coming together to form the PCN, you've obviously got lots of different cultures and kind of traditions coming together. So what we could do, for example, is come in and do some focus groups with individuals to really try and understand people's reservations, people's concerns, and then feeding that back to the leadership to then create the strategy that's required to shift that behaviour. And then out of that potentially comes pieces of training that supports kind of new values that are shared across all of the practices in the PCN. So that's an example.
Thank you. I don't know who asked that question, but did that help you with your understanding of what that is? We've got some questions on here about whether slides, etc. will be shared. So I think the intention is for everything from the event to be shared. And I think there's contact details available for the speakers as well. So if you've got follow-up questions once you've received them, we can help you get in touch with them. There's a question here which I think probably is for me, which is how are primary care digital strategies linked up with wider STP and ICS programs? So we have got a presentation in after the next break from myself for Mid and South Essex, for Laura, who works in North Essex and the North Essex and Suffolk STP, and also from Alan, who works in the West Essex and Herts area. So I'll speak for Mid and South Essex. Martin Callingham is here today somewhere at the background, who is our Chief Clinical Information Officer for Mid and South Essex, and is leading the STP-wide digital transformation programme. Martin and myself and other colleagues are working really, really closely to make sure that the things we're doing do link up. I think what we've discovered through that is there's lots of learning. Perhaps some of our hospital colleagues might have work that's already been undertaken in primary care, so primary care is quite ahead of some of our outpatient services, for example, in terms of online booking or remote cancellation. So we're looking at how the things that we can see patients like and enjoy to use in primary care can be introduced into secondary care, so they don't come into your practice asking what's happening with their appointment or how they look, or moaning their letter's gone missing in the post. So we're absolutely working closely together on that, and also really conscious in terms of training for staff. So we've talked quite a lot about training for staff, but how do we do that? So we've got, we've just heard about the Digital Nurses Network. All of the nurses in our area coming together for training around how they use digital tools, not primary care nurses having one training session and trust nurses having another one. And obviously for our patients, that's really important as well. We need to think about how we make sure they've got the digital skills they need to be able to use the digital tools that we're making available. And they're obviously not just patients of one service or another, they're just people who live in our area who are using all of our services. So certainly in Mid and South Essex, we've got a really clear understanding of how it fits in all together and why it needs to. And my understanding it's the same in the other areas, but obviously if you've got a particular question, if you don't work in Mid and South Essex, if you work in one of the other two areas, Laura and Alan couldn't speak about that later. I think we did have, Rachel, did you have a question from the floor? Has it been covered?
Yeah, just wanted to, it's a bit of a basic question really, but given that the Topple Review recommended staff to be given time to attend digital training, I noticed on the first presentation that one of the quotes you've got up there is a practice nurse saying that she's seldom able to leave the practice. So I just wondered if the panel had any ideas as to how do we address that real basic situation of getting release for people to actually attend training.
Oh, that's a can of worms, isn't it? I don't really know where to answer that from, because there's several hats you can answer that from. They have got a duty of care to the nurses as an employer to release them from training. I don't know from your strategy STP colleagues from a training perspective for nurses how that fits in with your Essex plans, I don't know. But from a practical point of view on the shop floor, I think nurses have to fight for their training, if I'm completely honest, because I do that myself and I totally understand where you're coming from, but I really don't know how it fits in with a bigger digital commitment for that.
So again, I guess certainly for our programme, and I'll speak about it in a moment, I am not a technology person. My role is working with people to introduce changes in the way they deliver services and the way that their patients receive care. So time to spend with staff to do that is key, and whatever that is, whether we're introducing care navigation, a digital tool, a new clinic, any of those things. So for me, I'm really aware that this will only work if people have the time and the opportunity to learn those skills, and we've got some stuff we can cover later about some of the ways we're doing that. We are working with the Digital Nurses Network to look at what that would mean on a local level. So we've agreed to undertake a pilot in this area, looking at what does a kind of local-based digital nurses network look like, and does that need to be some of that question for me is, does that need to be supplemented by some time face-to-face and giving people opportunity to come together? Because I guess there'll be some people who have kind of found your network and found it able to join the webinars and get online, but if they're the less confident people in the first place, you're going to struggle to get them involved, even though they might be curious. So there's lots of questions to work through, but absolutely, Rachel, time is the holy grail, isn't it? That's why I was excited about Helen's comment. Helen, have you got any thoughts on that? We have got, I think we've got coffee in a moment, but just to cover one other question, I guess, which was how, because I think this is very much for you, Helen, I've just lost it. Yeah, how do you change the mindset of people who don't like change?
So it's just slowly chipping away, really. One of the things that we've kind of found lends legitimacy to a change programme is where you get the general public or patients at the forefront. So we host at the moment the East of England Citizens Senate, for example. So what we tend to do is, before embarking on these kind of change programmes, is to get them to share their views on why they think or don't think that it's a worthy use of the NHS's time. Because I think generally that does tend to align most organisations to doing something if they feel like the public and the patients that they serve want it. So that's one thing, and I think people's resistance to change is normally around fear. So as I say, it's really important that when you are trying to introduce something, we can reassure them around risks and stuff that they may be concerned about. And just try and take people on that journey with you, try and get there, win the hearts and the minds, really. But some people just won't change as well. I've noticed that some people just, they're set in their ways, they don't want to change. And to be honest with you, we kind of go around those people rather than try and waste too much energy sort of bringing them on board all the time. So yeah, we're very fond of kind of identifying people who are kind of positive champions and almost riding on the crest of that wave rather than trying to create that sort of agreement across the whole workforce, for example. And leadership, again, I think leadership plays a really important part. So if you're part of an organisation where the leaders advocate for innovation and to a certain extent reward innovation in things like appraisals, where they start asking people, what have you improved this year? And then they acknowledge innovators for doing good things rather than being seen as disruptive, because I think a lot of people have that experience as well when they are kind of innovators. People kind of look at them with suspicion, why are you trying to create this product and what are you hoping to get out of it and all that. So I think where the leadership within any organisation gives permission to people to innovate, I think that really helps to drive it.
Thank you, Helen. So I think we've got probably time to sneak in a couple more. One is, I guess, a comment that somebody's made, which is the statement that nurses are the most trusted professions is misleading. That the national data this year shows that doctors are by a significant margin. So I don't think I need to wade into this debate because it's definitely not NHS managers. But have you got a kind of comment on why you use that statistic and why that's helpful in the work you're doing?
Yeah, completely honesty. I got it sent yesterday by colleagues to present, and that was the latest comment that was on there. So apologies if it's incorrect, and I will feed that back to the person that did the presentation.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my observation would be on that is there are, as we all know, you can find the figures that you want to back up what you're trying to do in terms of how you look, but I've certainly seen that statistic presented in a number of places, and it is, as you said, a national organisation that undertake that poll. I suppose if that was me, you've just talked about change. If I was trying to engage with nurses around change, I obviously would include a statistic that looks very favourably on nurses. So I guess it's about audience and who you're presenting to is part of the thing for that for me. Right, so I think we've got tea and coffee in the corner. I think we've got 15 minutes for refreshments. And need to get everyone back on time. Helen, thank you very much. And thank you very much. Alison, you're here all day. Helen, you need to leave for another appointment. So if people do want to talk to Helen, particularly, it sounds like people might be interested in the primary care network offer, please do so. Thank you everyone for your time. I think what we've heard today is how much there is going on out there, and we just need to join the dots up and try and think about how we share it with people who are, as we have acknowledged several times over, very, very busy. So thank you everyone for your questions, and I'll see you all in 15 minutes.